Welcome back to Current Affairs Hub. Sit down. Seriously, sit down for this one. Because what happened on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, was the kind of thing that doesn't happen very often in history. The kind of day where, for a few terrifying hours, the world sat on the edge of its seat, and nobody was entirely sure which way it would fall. Tonight, we're talking about war, about deadlines, about a president who said, in plain, unambiguous language, that a whole civilization will die tonight, and then it didn't. But let me take you back to the beginning. Let me walk you through this hour by hour, event by event, so you understand exactly what was at stake and what exactly pulled the world back from the edge. Because the story of April 7th, 2026 is not just about missiles and bombs. It's about phone calls made at 3 in the morning. It's about a waterway that controls a third of the world's oil supply. It's about the Pope speaking out from an Italian hillside. And it's about a Pakistani general who may have just changed the course of history. This is a full story. Let's get into it. Part 1, the deadline. By the morning of April 7th, 2026, the war between the United States, Israel, and Iran had already been going on for over 5 weeks. It had started on February 28th, a date that will live in the history books, when U.S. and Israeli forces launched their joint offensive against Iran. In the weeks since then, Iran had retaliated. Waves of missiles and drones have been fired at Israel. American allies across the region have been targeted. Drone strikes hit residential buildings in eastern Tehran. An American journalist named Shelley Kittleson had been kidnapped in Baghdad by a pro-Iranian militia. Oil prices had shattered records. The Middle East was burning. But on the morning of April 7th, something new entered the picture. President Donald Trump woke up and made a threat so stark, so blunt, that it silenced rooms around the world when people read it. He posted on Truth Social that the United States had given Iran a deadline, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If, by 8 o'clock that evening, Iran had not agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which roughly a third of the world's seaborne oil travels, then the consequences, Trump warned, would be catastrophic. He wrote that a whole civilization will die tonight. Read that again. A whole civilization. Not a military target. Not a nuclear facility. He was threatening Iran's bridges, its power plants, the infrastructure that 92 million people depend on for electricity or heat, for clean drinking water. The clock was now ticking. Part 2, the Strait of Hormuz. Now, before we go any further, let me explain why the Strait of Hormuz matters so much. Because if you don't understand the strait, you don't understand this war. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow channel, barely 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, that sits between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. Every single day, tankers carrying roughly 20 to 21 million barrels of oil squeeze through this passage. That's oil heading to Asia, to Europe, to global markets everywhere. When Iran effectively closed the strait as part of its war response, it didn't just hurt the United States. It hurt everyone. Supply chains buckled. Shipping routes were thrown into chaos. And oil prices did something extraordinary. On April 7 itself, the physical price of crude oil, what traders call dated Brent, the real-world price you pay to move a barrel of oil right now, hit $144.42 per barrel. That is the highest price ever recorded since tracking began in July 1987. Higher than the 2008 oil shock. Higher than anything the market had ever seen. In other words, the world was paying an enormous price. Every single day the strait stayed closed, the global economy bled. Trump's message to Tehran was simple: reopen the strait or face the consequences. And now, with that deadline hanging in the air, the entire world watched and waited. Part 3, the United Nations fails. While all of this was unfolding, the international community tried to act through its most important institution, the United Nations Security Council. Bahrain had drafted a resolution. It wasn't even the strong version. That had already been watered down. This was simply a text that strongly encouraged countries to coordinate to protect shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. A diplomatic nudge. Not even command. It went to a vote. 11 countries voted yes. 2 abstained. And 2 countries, China and Russia, vetoed it. Just like that, the UN's ability to act was gone. Iran's two most powerful allies had blocked the international community's only formal mechanism for intervention. The U.S. ambassador, Michael Waltz, condemned China and Russia, accusing them of siding with, in his words, a regime seeking to intimidate the Gulf into submission. Russia's ambassador said the resolution would create a dangerous precedent. Iran's ambassador pushed back against Trump's threats entirely, saying that Iran would exercise its right of self-defense and would take immediate and proportionate reciprocal measures. The diplomatic path through the UN was closed. The clock kept ticking. Part 4. Voices from all directions. And as the afternoon wore on, voices began rising from every corner of the world. From Rome, from Castel Gandolfo, the papal retreat about an hour outside the city. Pope Leo XIV stepped outside and spoke. He called Trump's threats against the Iranian people truly unacceptable. He said attacks on civilian infrastructure were against international law. He reiterated his Easter message, calling on the world to reject war. He asked citizens everywhere to contact their political leaders and demand an end to the conflict. Back in Washington, Republican voices were starting to crack. Representative Nathaniel Moran, a Texas Republican, a West Point graduate, someone who described himself as a Reagan Republican, released a lengthy statement. He said that America has always conducted military operations for just causes and through just and moral means. He said clearly, "I do not support the destruction of a whole civilization. That is not who we are." He ended with this, "America is great because America is good." Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski went even further, saying Trump's rhetoric cannot be excused away as an attempt to gain leverage, and that it undermines our long-standing role as a global beacon of freedom. And from the other side, Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell backed the president. He said Iran had been at war with us for 47 years, that they had killed Americans, and that no matter how the conflict ended, Iran had been significantly diminished. While all of this was happening in America's halls of power, in the Gulf, something else was happening, something much more immediate. Sirens. Part 5. The Gulf on Edge. As the afternoon became evening on April 7th, several Gulf nations reported they were actively intercepting incoming missiles and drones. The UAE said the loud sounds echoing across the country were the result of ongoing defensive operations. Qatar confirmed it had successfully intercepted a missile attack on its territory. Bahrain activated sirens. Citizens were told to seek shelter. Kuwait, perhaps the most striking signal of all, issued an order from its Interior Ministry telling all citizens and residents to stay indoors from midnight to 6 a.m. as a precautionary measure. The entire Gulf was bracing, and with Trump's 8 p.m. deadline now just hours away, administration officials in Washington told reporters that negotiations through intermediaries were ongoing, but the situation was fluid. There were reports that Iran had cut off direct diplomacy with the U.S., then reports that even the indirect talks had stopped. Sources told CNN that Washington was still eager for a diplomatic solution, but the picture was murky, unclear, tense. Only the president knew what would happen at 8 o'clock, and the president wasn't saying. When asked by Fox News how he felt about the talks, Trump simply said, "I can't tell you, because right now we're in heated negotiations." The world held its breath. Part 6. The Man from Islamabad. Here's where the story turns. Here's where an unexpected character walks onto the stage. It is past 3 o'clock in the morning in Islamabad, Pakistan. While most of the city sleeps, Pakistan's foreign minister, Ishaq Dar, is on the phone. He has been on the phone for hours. He is calling the foreign ministers of Egypt, of Saudi Arabia, of Turkey, of Morocco, issuing statements, coordinating, pushing. Pakistan in recent weeks had positioned itself as a mediator between Washington and Tehran, a neutral channel through which messages could pass when the direct lines went cold. And on this night, Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif posted a message that would be seen around the world. He called for a 2-week ceasefire. He asked Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz as a gesture of goodwill, and asked Trump to extend his 8 p.m. deadline by 2 weeks to allow diplomacy to work. He said negotiations were progressing steadily, strongly, and powerfully. A regional source told CNN that a deal was expected to be finalized that night, and that the discussions were being steered directly by Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir. When Trump was asked about Sharif on Fox News, he said simply, "I know him very well. He's a highly respected man." The White House confirmed. The president has been made aware of the proposal, and a response will come. A response will come. The clock ticked toward 8 p.m. Part 7, the ceasefire. And then, less than 2 hours before his own deadline, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, and the world exhaled. He wrote that based on conversations with Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir, and their request to hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran, he agreed to suspend the bombing for 2 weeks, on one condition: that Iran agreed to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. He called it a double-sided ceasefire. He said the U.S. had already met and exceeded all military objectives and was very far along the long-term peace agreement with Iran. He revealed that Iran had submitted a 10-point proposal and that the U.S. believed it was a workable basis on which to negotiate. He said, and I quote, "Almost all the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran." Shortly afterward, a senior White House official confirmed that Israel had also agreed to the ceasefire, suspending its own bombing campaign while negotiations continued. The Merkabir petrochemical facility in Mashr had been hit just hours earlier. A synagogue in Tehran had been destroyed, with Israel's military expressing regret for what it called collateral damage. The war had struck even places of worship. But now, for 2 weeks at least, the guns were quiet. Part 8. What does it all mean? So where does this leave us? The ceasefire is 2 weeks long. It is fragile. It is conditional. And the condition, Iran reopening the Strait of Hormuz, is one that carries enormous stakes for Tehran's own leverage in these negotiations. The moment they open the strait, a key card leaves their hand. The oil markets reacted instantly. Brent crude futures, which have been elevated all day, plunged roughly 6% in after-hours trading as traders bet that the ceasefire chatter could hold. But $144 physical oil in a single day tells you something. The world simply cannot afford for the strait to stay closed. The economic pressure on everyone, not just Iran, not just the U.S., is enormous. Meanwhile, the human cost of this war is not captured in any single number. Iranian civilians have lived through strikes on their cities. An American journalist was kidnapped, synagogues destroyed, petrochemical plants on fire, a whole region on edge. The voices calling for peace. From the Pope, from members of Trump's own party, from Pakistani diplomats working through the night. They all made themselves heard tonight, whether or not that contributed to the outcome. Only those in the room will ever know. What we do know is this. On a night when the world braced for something terrible, a phone call, or several phone calls, change the course of events. Outro the bigger picture. History often turns on moments like this. Not battles, not press conferences, but conversations held in the early hours of the morning between people nobody expected to be at the center of a story. Pakistan, a prime minister tagging U.S. and Iranian officials on social media. A field marshal steering negotiations behind the scenes. 2 weeks. That's what the world has bought itself. 2 weeks to turn a temporary silence into something lasting. Whether that happens, whether Iran and the United States can take a 10-point proposal and build a real peace out of it, is a question that will define the coming weeks. We'll be watching, we'll be reporting, and as always, we'll bring you the facts straight, no spin, right here on Current Affairs Hub. If you found this video valuable, please share it. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on the ceasefire. Do you think it holds? And subscribe if you haven't already, because the next 2 weeks are going to be some of the most important in recent Middle East history. Until next time, stay informed, stay sharp, and stay safe. This has been Current Affairs Hub.